Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming along. First, we'll just start off by acknowledging that this webinar is happening on stolen lands. So for a lot of us in Australia, across the continent, we're on different stolen lands. I'm personally on the stolen lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Woiwurrung Nation of the Kulin Nation. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. And also just to remind us, I don't know if people have been reading the news coming out of different Indigenous nations across the world and how, so often Indigenous people are on the front lines of pandemics and like these. Firstly, I'll just chuck the agenda in the chat. It'll be pretty exciting. We've got 4 speakers, which Marisol will introduce. And then we're going to break out into the discussion rooms.
Help me a lot.
Did someone say something?
That's Maria, the 4th speaker.
Oh, good.
I am sorry.
Oh, good. Good to have you on. I guess it's a good reminder, to mute yourself if you're not speaking. And I'm the tech person today, so I'll have the power to mute and unmute you. So the agenda, we've got 4 wonderful speakers, and then we're going to break out into rooms so that we can discuss our own experiences and views and reflect on what the speakers have said. And then we'll come back together to have some questions and proposals and a bit of a discussion with the speakers. And then we're lucky to have Alejandro, who's going to play us some music at the end. And so first I'll hand over to our wonderful host, Marisol.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was just sending you a message. Just to say that what I explained to the speakers before, this is new for all of us to organize activities where we can talk about the power of our communities online. So it's strange, and of course we are going to make a lot of mistakes. So the idea of the Pandemic People's Power is to provide a space to learn about what other communities around the world and social movements are doing at the moment with the current pandemic. So we started last week with the first Pandemic People's Power. This is the second one. We are going to have 4 speakers for today. So I'm gonna just mention the speakers when we will be presenting them for them to speak. So our first speaker is Fabio Tomaz. He's from MST, from the Landless Workers Movement of Brazil. And of course, we are proud to have him here. We have been working with the MST, or Movimiento Sin Tierra, as we like to say in Spanish, from Brazil for a few years. And we have been lucky enough to have them in our yearly conference when we organize them here in Australia, in Melbourne. So yes, so Fabio, welcome. I think your microphone is mute. If you could please unmute.
Not anymore.
There we are. Thank you so much for taking the time. Don't forget that in Latin America what time is there, Fabio?
Here is like 10:13 p.m.
PM, yes, from the day before, yeah?
Yes, yeah, I'm talking from the past. You're in the future.
Yeah. That's correct. So you can predict whatever we said. You can say you predicted, yeah.
Okay.
Because
no good news.
All right. So I will leave it to you, Fabio, to talk about what the MST is at the moment doing, or how you are organizing today with the current pandemic.
Okay, so comrades, thank you so much for the invitation. Now, it's always a pleasure when we can arrange the different times we have and all the tasks that we're having this period. But it's a pleasure to be able to share with you some of what's happening here in Brazil. First of all, I will just say sorry for my English because it's not that good. So if there is anything that you cannot understand, just interrupt me. And if there's something that I just cannot express in English, I'll just speak kind of Portuñol, and then you just help me to translate. There's some idea that I just can't handle. And if there's any problem with the connection or the audio or anything, just let me know, okay? So I'll try to be straight in the 15 to 20 minutes time that I'm proposed to follow, to say that in Brazil, like, I don't know what the news outside Brazil are telling about how Brazil is dealing with the pandemic. And I'm afraid I have fear to ask people what they're talking about Brazil, because I don't think it's good news about what's happening here. But in general, what's happening is that the Brazilian government do not believe that this pandemic is something serious. So we have this right-wing government of President Bolsonaro, and it's not only a right-wing government, but it's like that kind of flat earth people right-wing, no? So it's like these people that sing conspiracy theories, all the staff of Bolsonaro's government is like this kind of very dangerous right-wing, very lunatic people at all. So from part of the government, the federal government is still denying that the pandemic is something serious in Brazil. The only thing that's kind of helping is that due to the way the republic is organized here in Brazil, the states and the municipalities have a lot of autonomy because we are like this federative republic. So the way the state is dealing with the pandemic, all the actions are being made in state level or municipality level. Also, we have here in Brazil a universal health system that also helps somehow to coordinate kinds of some kind of actions. But all the initiatives to confront this moment in the pandemic is doing like, aside from the state, all the initiatives that's really working is what we're doing, not counting on the states to help us, or the government itself. So Brazil have to talk about numbers because everything now is about numbers. We have more than 200,000 cases of infections by the COVID-19. And we have, from today's report of the Ministry of Health, we have 14,000 deaths. It's a tragedy, but it's a bigger tragedy because also these numbers are very underestimated. So the official numbers in Brazil, you cannot believe on them, because as we're discussing here, there are 3 ways you can look for to deal with the numbers, to know how it's spreading in the countries. First way is like, first we're in the dark, and then you can have like a light to focus on where the problem is. That's one way. That's what some countries are doing, like testing everybody, looking for the cases, going to the people. The second way to deal with it is like having a candle in the dark, where you can just see what's close to you. So you count the people that goes to the hospital and say that they're sick, who reach the health system. That's the second thing. Brazil is more like the third case. We're just tumbling in bodies. So you just start counting and make the statistics using the deaths to estimate how much people are with the disease and things like that. So some of the estimatives that we are building with some scientists here in Brazil say that the real number would be something like 3 to 5 times more what's officially being said here in the country. No? And because we have a lot of actions from the state governments and the municipalities, but you have this contradiction with the federal governments, the population in Brazil is don't know what to do. No? The people are very confused. So quarantine is more here in Brazil, more like an individual action. If you want to do quarantine or don't want to do the quarantine, if you believe or not. So we have this kind of confusion here, and the numbers are increasing. So everything we're doing in the MST, in our organization, and we're talking about a mass movement, like the MST is a mass movement. We're organized like in 23 from the 26 states of Brazil. We have a social base of like 1.5 million people in different settlements and camps struggling for land. So we are talking about a mass movement. So we have to reorganize a lot internally. And how can we deal with the pandemic, with everything that's happening in Brazil, all the problems that we're living from this period, but at the same time, how can we advance in our main struggle for agrarian reform in Brazil, for changing like the core of the inequality in Brazil, that's the land distribution. So we from the MST, we are organizing ourselves in kind of 4 levels, 4 different like main actions, I could say, or 4 dimensions, you know, that how we organize all these communities, all our camps and settlements, all the thousands of families that are both living on settlements that they conquer the land, or that are struggling for land but it creates a contradiction for us, because we as a mass movement, we depend a lot on mass mobilization to do our struggle. You cannot occupy land from the landowners with 50 people. No? So the nature of a mass movement is have massive actions. And today is not the time to do this kind of massive actions. No? Not put so much people together. So we organize like these 4 kinds of actions that we are doing this period. And we are also, everybody's in the MST is kind of learning about this online video conference, internet world that we are never used to. So we are just trying to do meetings by video conference. Nobody know how this works before. So we are all the left. We are all just struggling to deal with it. So the lucky that we have a lot of people who understand the technique of it to help us. But the first, I'll just talk about these 4 main actions. First action that we are doing here, it's taking care about our own basis in a grassroots level for organization. So the moment of the pandemic demands to us how we organize our territories nationwide, to have all the precautions that we need to avoid the spread of the pandemic within our bases. And we are talking about the poorest sectors of Brazilian society. So we are organizing our camps and our settlement with all the orientations of since from how to wash hands is an issue, because in most of our territories, we don't have access to water. So basic things that you can just go in your internet, in your WhatsApp or whatever, and just see easy procedures to how to take care of yourself or the one you love. it's a problem for our base because people don't have access to water, for example, as an example. So the first step that we're doing is in every camp, every settlement that we have, the militants that we call militants in English, it sounds weird, but activists, you say, I think, activists. Militants have this military meaning in English, I don't know. But the activists in all camps and settlements, each single territory of the MST, we are just taking care of our own people. No? So have to act, but also taking care of our people. The second main action that we are doing in Brazil as MST is on the topic of solidarity. Because there's a kind of a dispute on the speech of solidarity, because the middle class, the bourgeoisie, the elite, they talk a lot about how this moment we need to make charity to help the poor people. But we're talking about solidarity more like in this revolutionary perspective, like solidarity as a principle of building a struggle or changing society, So we are creating a lot of networks, the MST, with other organizations, with lots of other organizations nationwide. We're organizing these different campaigns, trying to connect all the actions of solidarity that we're having. And the MST is contributing a lot in one of the biggest problems that we're having here in Brazil, that is we can organize our territories to provide food for the people who are in quarantine, or for those people who have lost their jobs. Because here in Brazil, we already have a lot of unemployment because of the pandemic. And we are talking also in a country where 41% of the active workforce is in informal jobs. So people don't have any kind of security. So we are making this connection to produce the food that we produce, give them to the people who are in more need now, that's in the favelas, in the periphery of the urban areas, most of them, and try to make this connection in actions of solidarity, because we have this lack of action of the state itself or the federal government of all that. So we are using what we have, that is organized territories where we produce healthy food, to make this solidarity and giving tons and tons of foods in our country to those who are needing more in this situation. Because now Brazil is again in the map of hunger. Again, people don't have what to eat because of this pandemic, the impact that they have in the whole society, and of course because of the lack of action of the government around. So all these actions of solidarity is another thing that we're putting a lot of energy and a lot of our time, is how can we organize this network on solidarity with different organized parts of the society in Brazil. So we are not like doing only as an MST, but we are doing like connecting to all the way the communities organize themselves. So that's the second like main front of what we are doing, a front of action. Third one is that as the pandemic shows, puts on spot all the inequality that we have in Brazil. It proves how the system that we have didn't work. So it shows all the problems of this capitalist system, the way they organize in the periphery of the world, in the so-called global south and things like that. So we are also in this third front, we have organized a plan, like an emergency plan of agrarian reform, to demand for the government that now more than ever, if you want to create jobs, if you want to give people what to eat, if you want to to solve a lot of the problems that we are having in this situation, we need more than ever agrarian reform. So we organized this emergency plan of agrarian reform, and we are in articulation with different forces of the society to try to put to the government that it's the moment where we have to reorganize the land issue. It's an opportunity that we have to reorganize the land ownership in Brazil. So we connect the crisis that we're living with the need of an agrarian reform. You know? And this emergency plan of agrarian reform, that we are putting a lot of pressure in the government in the way that's possible in this situation. We're not doing like so much direct actions. We're not like occupying the public buildings or things like that. It have like inside of this emergency plan of agrarian reform, we have like 4 axes. One is about the land and work. So advance on expropriating the land that did not fulfills the constitution, because in the constitution of Brazil we have this social function of the land, and if the land does not accomplish the social function, by law it must go to the agrarian reform, but it's just only in the paper. Second axis is like about healthy food, how we organize the production of food in Brazil, because in this pandemic it became clear, because all the international transport of everything, all the commodities are closed. So we just see how much we're depending. Imagine a country the size of Brazil, how much we depend from other imports to eat. You know, Brazil produces a lot of soybean, but we do not eat soybean all the time. No? So we are also talking this emergency plan of agrarian reform, a lot of propositions of how can we organize this food sovereignty in our country through the agrarian reform program. Third axis of this emergency plan of agrarian reform that we're organizing is about the environment. So it's not only produce food, but what we're just saying is that we have to produce food in a different way. So that's how the agroecology enters. So we only produce healthy food in a sustainable way with agroecology. Now that's the way we organize our settlements and in our camps, the territories that have occupied in Brazil. You know? So also this environmental issue is taken on account. And the fourth axis of this emergency plan is organizing the better conditions of dignity for the people who are in the settlements, for the small farmers, for people. So having access to electricity, having access to water, having access to roads, having the minimum of dignity, of conditions for dignity that we demand. You know, how we take care of our children in these areas, how we organize study, how we educate people, how we live together, how can we create new relations, you know, that are based on different perspective of what we have in the whole country. So with this 4-level organized this plan of action, and we are just making a lot of pressure with the government, with allies of the MST, friends of the MST worldwide, and so on. And the fourth and last main action that we are taking, it have to do with the national politics in Brazil. So the government is in chaos, completely chaos. You know? So we have to position ourselves. You know? We must take out Bolsonaro somehow. You know? When the pandemic starts, Bolsonaro say that people were exaggerating. Then a lot of people die, and then he say that people are in a fantasy of the numbers. The more people die, he just say that it was just a little flu, nothing more. Then when we have more deaths than China, he just in a press conference, he just say, so what? What can I do? Like this, he say, so what with all those deaths? No? When we reach 10,000 deaths, he proposed to make a barbecue with his friends. And he said to the press that he's going to organize this barbecue, like kind of celebrate. This guy's crazy. No? And also he goes to a manifestation that the right wings organize, asking for military intervention and the closing of the justice system in Brazil. Today, just today, the Minister of Health asked to get out of the government. He just say, I can't handle anymore the president. And it's the second change of the Minister of Health in less than 1 month in Brazil. So during the pandemic, you cannot have one Minister of State that lasts more than a few weeks. So there's a lot of actions taken in more this juridical perspective to propose impeachment of Bolsonaro. So we as MST are also trying to debate the national politics. So we are doing all this kind of these 4 actions that we are, I will say. So just to finish the explanation that I have more than 20 minutes talking. We are taking care of our base, organizing our territories the best way we can now to take care of our people, our activists. The campaigns of solidarity connecting with networks with different organizations all over the country. This emergency plan of agrarian reform that we're trying to put pressure on the government to organize some actions, and trying to debate the national politics in Brazil, because this government have just to get out and have to construct an alternative, because the Bolsonaro government it's committing a lot of crimes. No, it already have like 6 or 7 impeachment process that people put against the president, but it depends on the Congress to accept them and put for voting. So Bolsonaro is trying to organize that this will not happen. And at the same moment, there's a lot of scandals of corruption going on, because one of the Minister of Justice of Bolsonaro also left the government and started to make a lot of denouncements of how he's protecting his family against some investigation and things like that. So things are very crazy here. We from the MST are doing our part, and it's a tough moment for Brazilian people, for us, but you know, only solo el pueblo salva el pueblo, and we are in this one. So thank you for your time, and I think in the debate, in the conversation, we can have like more interaction for anything that's up to you for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. That was Fabio from Brazil. You don't forget that you have in the reactions, you know, you have applause and also thumbs ups for you to use it. You know, don't forget that. That's very important. Thank you so much. I think your contribution was very important. As Fabio mentioned, if you have any question, use the chat. So this is opportunity to anything that Fabio mentioned that you want to know more, or it wasn't clear, you know, just send information through the chat, because after we will be not just talking about anything that you want to share, also the speakers will have to answer your questions. Yeah. So now we are going to move into the second speaker. So the second speaker is Josh Kotsakis. So Josh Kotsakis is from Migrante, Melbourne, and Philippines, Australia Solidarity Association. So what I know is that, you know, I know Josh and Mary May, and also the, you know, the organization that they do a lot of solidarity, you know, here in Australia with the Filipino or Filipinas, and that they are community of Filipino and Filipino Australians, you know, who solidarize with the Philippines, but I'm sure that they do more than that. So I wanna, you have the microphone open, Josh. So yes. Don't forget that we have 15 minutes, and yeah, so Josh Kotsakis.
Thank you, Marisol. First, let me acknowledge the traditional or custodian of the land, and I pay my respect to the past, present, and emerging elders. First, let me congratulate LASNET for holding this conference, because we need clarity as to informations of what is happening around us, especially our basic community. I speak with in regards to the Philippines, being a Filipino migrant here in Australia and being an activist as well. We are mostly concerned with what is happening in the Philippines and what has been going on of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic itself has been known in the Philippines, and the first global death happened in the Philippines, which from a Chinese that came from Wuhan. So the Philippines was always the first to acknowledge as well to stop the economic transactions because of the global pandemic. But sad to say, the government response was from the very beginning, when the epidemic, as we called them before the World Health Organization's proclaimed it as a pandemic. Its attitude was a wait and see attitude, meaning to say that as Fabio has also indicated in his speech, that the government did not regard the crisis as a crisis, but just a nuance. And jokingly, which is the report of President Duterte, is that he will just urinate on this virus and it will disappear, as if he has the total control of the crisis. But when the figures of death started to rise up, and only then in March 12 that he declared lockdown in Metro Manila, and after that, when the people that has been trapped in Metro Manila tried to escape it, escape the lockdown and the return to their provinces, Duterte has instigated a military approach to the situation. He did not bother to implement a health procedure or health approach to the pandemic. Instead, he organized his military to do blockades and to do roadblocks to stop people from going out or living or exiting Metro Manila. So it's a total lockdown for the very purpose of controlling the population. But the health response was meager, and as news have occurred, the health frontliners have succumbed to the disease or to the virus, and mostly 90% of the frontliners that have died are doctors who volunteered without any compensation to do the mass testing. But also the government did not pursue or provided PPEs to the frontliners, did not provide mass testing kits to the frontliners. Instead, there was a proposal coming from the University of the Philippines researchers that they have produced testing kits that is more economical than what is available in the market. But Duterte did not supported this, and therefore it's just sitting there in storage. But as the debts escalated, the most response of the government was military, police, and the mass movement in the Philippines started to support the population through food aids, health aids, but the government just cracked it down, and one example is a fish vendor who's trying to sell his ware was mauled down by a paramilitia to control why he is violating the lockdown. 10 organizers have been charged with violations of the lockdown because they are in the street feeding those hungry citizens. And also a representative of Bayan Muna, or People's First, a party list organization in the Philippines, have been shot because he confronted the paramilitia because they are doing food aids as well. So that was the general response of the government. So in short, the COVID-19 pandemic is just what you call a disguise for the fascist regime of Duterte. It is just a disguise to impose what you call a pseudo martial law in the Philippines, and there is no intention of putting the health of its citizens first and foremost, but it's more like a preparation so that when he ends his office in 2022, he will have established either a dynastic rule or a military junta, which is very evident now because all the major government departments of the Philippines have been manned by ex-retirees or retirees, general military retirees. So in preparation to hold power and use these departments to a total what you call control of the country. So what can I say with the mass movement? The mass movement in itself, because it's been struggling, even when there is no pandemic, because the government has been suppressing them, has been trying to coerce them, trying to put them in jail with trump-up charges. When this pandemic came, it was just a matter of reshifting your strategy. And one of the strategies, because well, distancing, the total lack of human approach. So they have started to organize underground, and one of the methods, which is the legal methods, is noise barrage, which always occurs every week, and all campaigns are done through this social media platform, using Twitter, using Facebook, using Zoom, and other other social media platforms, but they have not stopped, and it has produced a lot of support from the population itself. Even the apolitical people have come to realize that what the government is doing is not really pro people, but a fascistic approach to a situation. So COVID-19 is one weapon that the Duterte government is using, so that it can prolong its power, and it can prolong its military rule. So thank you.
Thank you to you, Josh. Yes, it's important for everyone who is listening, you know, to ask questions. As you can hear, what we heard from Fabio and also from Josh, there is a lot going on, and yeah, we need to somehow find a way to continue talking about, you know, how to empower our communities and the social movements who at the moment are trying to find ways, you know, to continue their struggle. So thank you so much, Josh. That was very informative. Thank you so much. And don't forget that also the speakers, if you have questions about the other speakers, you can send it through the chat. That's very important. And also, if you want to connect with this speaker in the future, your people's struggle, also you can do it through the chat. So you can ask for contact details and all that. So our third speaker, and we are hoping that it's going to work, is Edgar, Daniel Edgar. So Daniel Edgar lives in Colombia. He is an Australian researcher who has been living in Colombia for over 10 years. But we tried before to speak to him. We know that he's in the chat, but we were having a lot of problems with the sound. So we are hoping that we are going to be lucky now. We are not going to be able to see him definitely, but let's see how the sound works. So just letting you know that also Daniel will be speaking about, you know, what the social, you know, movements in Colombia are surviving during this the pandemic. I'm sure that all of you have seen the news and received information about the killings of social leaders, indigenous leaders in Colombia in daily basis since the pandemic. So let's see if we can talk to Daniel. Daniel, can you hear me? Daniel? 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 I don't think, I cannot see the microphone at all.
I don't know if there. I think there's still a lot of static here. Maybe if we try a bit later on, still a lot of static.
Okay. All right. So he will try, as you hear, he is trying to fix or move into an area where he will have better reception, and see if we can have him after. So our third speaker, now moving forward, is Maria Pena. Maria, we know that you are listening. So Maria Pena is a visual artist based in Melbourne, originally from Colombia. So with Maria, she's going to present an idea, a new idea of organizing, or how to create new actions during the pandemic, but I will leave Maria to speak to all of you. Maria, can you hear me? Your microphone, do you need to, microphone, Anissa? Your microphone is off, Maria. There you are.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay. Hello to everyone. My name is Maria Pena. I'm originally from Colombia. I'm a visual artist based in Melbourne, but I moved between Latin America, especially Colombia and Australia. Today, as a visual artist, and all my experience through this crisis that we are living, all the humankind globally, I question the role of the arts in times of war, and especially the art in times of social crisis and transformation, and how, as an artist, I should prompt ideas to open consciousness to people through symbolic languages. That's the language of the arts. It's symbolic, but it's also universal, like the music, like dance, like theater, like writing as well. Creative writing is universal symbolic language that communicates to all. But how to create and communicate with a language that, aside from being artistic, is also clear to understand, and that prompts the people to develop the art and therefore opens consciousness. From here, the idea to create installations with a performance elements that should be made by the people, prompted by the artist, but made by the people, especially in these times of social distancing, how to create ways of at least open our conscious and try to talk to each other in a public space, in a park, in a community, in a suburb, away from the cities. What we do usually in this protesting and manifesting is bringing posters and flyers and going to the government buildings where the control is totally set, yeah, where everything is gray and controlled by the police. Is a mechanism of control. That's how I see it. Looking for ways of communicating ourselves, of making again the union between ourselves in the suburbs. So I came out with this idea because this is nothing new. It has happened before along the history of visual arts and theater and music as well, where artists get to a public space, a plaza or a park, and they have an idea to call people to do the art so that it's easier to speak about what is happening, what they are thinking, how we can move on, how can we resolve, what ideas do we have as a community. One of those artists that I really admire and has done that in Colombia is Maria Teresa Hincapié. One example of one of her performances was to bring objects. She brought a lot of different objects to a public space, and the people had to build the installation. She gave instructions of building a labyrinth. And then there was a huge labyrinth, a huge space where the people could go through. Another artist, for example, Elio Itisica from Brazil, and he worked with in the favelas as well with the public. Another artist, Hander Wasser, he called for people in the galleries to get naked and to talk about the body as an organic element. And well, there are many, many other examples. So inspired with these ideas, and in this, because I feel very emotional with what is happening to us in this moment, I came up with an idea that we could develop in different parts of the world. They have to be done, they must be done in the suburbs where the community are, in a park or in a street. So I'm basing the installation in the word fear. In English, it's fear, okay? I just moved my mobile, just a minute, because I have everything set here. We have, sorry, this word, yeah, fear. So it's F-E-A-R. The idea is that with a collective of artists, we build the letters. The letters could be made with any material that is durable, okay? Because we want to leave it in the park. We don't know what is going to happen. Maybe someone will just break it, or maybe people will transform it. This is the idea. We don't know what is going to happen. So the word fear obviously has a universal meaning, yeah? And what if we just unfold? We unfold the words, we separate the letters, yes? That's what we are going to do in the park with the people. We separate the letters. I just show you in a minute. I start with this one. And we are going to make different words that are completely opposite to the fear, and words we dream with, okay? For example, I came up with this word, yeah? From F, we have freedom, okay? So this is the flag for the first letter, freedom. I'm gonna glue it in the wood, just a minute.
This? That's awesome. You built that? Oh my God.
So I'm going to,
Awesome.
just a minute. So I'm going to add in the word freedom, yeah? This should be made by the community. So we are transforming the word fear into something else, freedom. But aside from that, this will be like a sort of pot where we can plant together with the people who are participating in the action. We can plant. We can make something different and transform it, yeah? Yeah. And we don't have to go to the government buildings because they have the power, but we should have the power in the community. And we should have the power of talking with art through culture and transform our consciousness through culture and art instead of trying to get the control, because we don't have that power, but we do have the power of art, talking to each other, making each other a community. This is, I think, what the next step we should do. Okay, so this is freedom. And the idea is that we will have land. Yeah. We dig the letters into the land. So this is just a sort of a sketch that I'm just showing you, an idea. We thought about with LASNET, we thought, okay, I had this idea, we could start doing it, and they invited me to kind of show it to everyone. This is one of the words that I created with unfolding the fear. This is freedom. So this is the first one. I just put it here. So it's something very raw still. So that is freedom. Then with the E, I came up with evolution. I'm going to glue it here. Evolution. Okay. So we are unfolding the fear. We are transforming the emotion of the fear. And we are living a precedent, a different history from the one that they show in the news. That's evolution. I put it here. Okay. in the idea of the performance, they should go deep on the land, on the earth. The third one is A. Yeah. So A could be action. So A is action. Action. Different flags. They don't have to do with those government flags at all. And the last one is R. Very important one. This one is resistance. Resistance. This is my idea, but with the community, we can come up with different words. Also, if your language is different, obviously the word is different, and then the new ones will be different as well. Yeah. So this one is resistance. Okay. Put it here. And every one of them will be a pot where we can plant something, herbs or maybe flowers, vegetables that can grow. And this is a collective movement. Okay. It's a collective movement that I think is more powerful and it makes more transformation than just protesting in the government buildings. And that's what they want. They want to put us aggressive, the same as they do. So we have to try to speak with a different language, different from their language. Because I do think that all this that we are living, like George said, is a controlling. It's controlling, definitely. I cannot see it any other way. And that we need to play a different language in order to keep happy, in order to keep united. We need to create ways of getting united instead of getting the social distancing. Also, the social distancing has become the distancing on ideas, on opinions. That is the most dangerous one. Yeah, I think this, I don't believe you, I don't think you are right, I think you are lying to me, this is my truth, that is your truth. It was an amazing weapon they are using it against the community. The thinking, the mind distancing, and also the technology. The technology, the most we are depending on technology, the most control they have over us. The most we buy in their shops, in their brands, the most we need them, the most control we are. So we need to be independent. As Mujica has said in different interviews, we need to govern ourselves. And I think our weapons are different from theirs. Art, singing, mantras, chanting, dancing, performance. Before, they took from us medicine. They took from us natural medicine, natural remedies, natural rituals and therapies, because they are supposed to be wrong and their medicine is good. Yeah, they took that belief from us. Now they are taking the other one, the other weapon we have, which is art. We cannot let that happen. Expression, emotion, symbolic thinking. We need to preserve art. So this is just my message. And so the last part is to put fear I just moved this a little bit. We put fear in quarantine. What if we put fear in quarantine? So I'm gonna put it in quarantine. Yeah. And I know it's difficult because we live a world of fear, of control, so it's not easy. But I think if we just feel strong, eat well, and have love and laugh, our pharmacy is inside of us. Then we can heal ourselves. And we can transform that virus into a flower. And instead of making us more weak and sick, because if we believe on it, it will actually kill us. So this is my message, and I hope it can help. Remember that we could do this action. We are going to start doing it soon in Melbourne, in a park. But maybe I encourage you, I can send you more specific details of how to do it. And you could call out for some artists or people to do it in the parks in your suburbs and also with your languages. So we can make a big art revolution, like a global art revolution with this idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Please don't forget to use your reaction. It's always important for the speakers. Yeah, bravo. That was really good. Yes, we cannot forget about art, definitely. What are you going to do without music? Yeah, the messages, you know, that we get. But don't forget that you can ask questions to Maria also through the chat. I see that the chat is getting a lot of, you know, action. People is writing and sending, but any question, just, yeah, that I forgot to mention that Maria's artwork strongly relate to themes of memory and identity. So more information we are going to put in the chat. You know that Maria has a webpage if you want to find out more about what she's doing. And we will try to join her, you know, in the actions she's planning to, because we live in the same state here in Australia, in Melbourne. So we'll see if we can join these actions in an open space, you know, at the park. New ways of protest. So we have our final speaker is Daniel Edgar, that we tried to introduce before, but he has been having some problems with the audio. I'm not sure you have any new information, Anissa?
He's saying that the connection still isn't very good.
Did we receive anything from him? Because Daniel supposed to speak about Colombia. He has been living in Colombia for over 10 years. Let's mention that Daniel has been doing a research that he included in a book that he is writing of the social and political history of Colombia. So between brackets is in search of the Colombia, social and political fragments and perspectives from the past to the present, the pinnacle of the pyramid of financial and economic power, the buck stops here, and the multinationals among the untouchables of the Colombian conflict. So we are going to send you also through the chat. There is, you know, a paper that he wrote that is available. He sent us the link. So if you are interested, we will send that through the chat. Anyway, anything from him, Anissa?
He sent through a little excerpt from his research that I could read out.
Yep.
And then he's still hanging around, hopefully can hear us a bit, so people can ask questions of what's happening in Colombia. But I'll read out, yeah, I'll read out this excerpt, and then if anybody, because it is part of a bigger research, if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat.
So why people need to put it in the chat, because soon as Anissa finish to read Daniel's information, we are going to move into groups. So Anissa is going to organize all of us into 2 or 3 groups. In that group, we're going to have 15 to 20 minutes to talk. There is 1 question for every group. After, Anissa is going to bring us all together again and to finalize with an amazing musician that is, not because he's Chilean, but he's an amazing musician who live here in Melbourne, Australia. And Alejandro Vargas, he's gonna play some music for us. So let's go to Anissa.
Awesome. And I'll just let everyone know that all the questions that you're putting in the chat, I'm copying over so that we'll be able to repeat them later and get the panel to answer them. Oh, and Marie asked, could we ring Daniel? We have tried. It seems like the reception's just really bad over there at the moment. But I'll read this out and then we'll see if there's any questions. So in Colombia, the government is taking the potential threat posed by the virus seriously and attempting to devise and implement comprehensive countermeasures, steps that most people are already adopting, permitting cautious optimism that the virus can be contained, notwithstanding the dilapidated condition of essential services and infrastructure in most parts of the country. The Colombian people have many generations of experience in responding to adversity and surviving sudden calamities. Although, as in many other countries, the first to receive support from the state were well-connected corporate interests, belated measures are being devised to assist less privileged Colombians, and food packages are arriving to some communities. However, the government has rejected calls from the Venezuelan government to urgently establish bilateral mechanisms to jointly monitor and combat the spread of the virus, and remains an active and enthusiastic collaborator in the threats and provocations waged by the US government against Venezuela. So yeah, it sounds like Venezuela is trying to help out Colombia, but Colombia is the Colombian government is very connected to the US government in their threats against Venezuela. Counterinsurgency and forced eradication military activities continue in some parts of Colombia, notwithstanding a unilateral ceasefire proclaimed by the ELN in order to facilitate preventing the spread of the virus, and the assassinations of social leaders have not diminished. In brackets, Daniel says, I have been conducting a low-key lobbying campaign for several years for a unit of the Army Corps of Engineers to be deployed in the Tumaco region to modernize the water supply system, raising the possibility in numerous regional forums on land development or politics, but it seems like they are already overextended, building new fortifications around their already heavily fortified barracks. However, the World Bank has kindly stepped in and contracted a consortium from the US to upgrade and take over control of the aqueduct with a loan that Colombians will no doubt be paying back for many years to come. So that's all happening in the Tumaco region. The embattled government of Ivan Duque, who people might have heard of, a very conservative, the new president, has gained a reprieve from the numerous scandals that were beginning to threaten the viability of his presidency. The proliferation of evidence suggesting widespread vote-buying campaigns conducted by criminal groups in support of his presidential campaign, the investigation being conducted by the Supreme Court into allegations of criminal conduct by former President Álvaro Uribe, patron and mentor of the young president who has spent much of his adult life in the US. Albeit very reluctantly, it would appear, the reluctance of the Supreme Court is not surprising. So this is the reluctance of the Supreme Court into the allegations of criminal conduct by Uribe. As among other ominous related developments, the magistrate responsible for the preliminary stage of the investigation into some of the allegations against Uribe has been subjected to a persistent and extremely menacing campaign of intimidation, with several attempts by groups of heavily armed men to enter the apartment complex where he resides with his family, as well as the discovery of surveillance devices in his office, suggesting the involvement of elements within military intelligence or some other well-equipped and connected group. These and other mounting scandals and challenges have been swept away for the moment as the mass media obsess over every minor detail of the coronavirus to the exclusion of anything else. The national strikes and mass mobilization convened for the 25th of March was cancelled, and almost all forms of protest have been suspended at the moment. So that's just a little excerpt from what Daniel wrote. If you have any questions, there are people on this call, as well as hopefully Daniel, who can answer. That's that. And so should we go into our groups now? Cool. So you've spent a lot of time hearing from a bunch of amazing speakers and probably have a lot going on in your brain. And also everybody here on the call has a lot of really good experience and ideas. So we thought that it would be great to be able to put us into a couple of groups so we can introduce ourselves and discuss what we've heard. I'll send out this question to everybody once you're in the groups, but the question that we're asking people to talk about is discuss your views about the pandemic in relation to what the speakers have said. So we'll ask that in each group begin by introducing yourselves, so kind of go around and make sure that everyone has the chance to speak. We'll be in the groups for about 15 minutes before we come back. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me or write in the chat.
That's something that the left people have a problem to understand, because everybody wants a form, a solution, a way to do stuff. In the MST, we have this very complex concept, and we have this word that we could never translate to English. We do some course on political training in English here in Brazil, inviting a lot of coverage, and we never could translate the word organicidade. In Spanish, it makes more sense, organicidade, but it's the way the organization functions as an organism. So how you connect all the components of organization, like a mass movement, like MST, with different tasks, but they are connected with each other. The way we do this in the MST is not like the important thing. I could spend like a day explaining to you how the base groups works with the sectors in the grassroots level, how someone becomes a leadership or not, or the difference between leadership, what we call direction. There's a complexity of terms of how we organize ourselves. For us in the MST, the most important thing is that the way we organize ourselves depends on principles. So the more clear we have which are the principles that guide us, like organizational principles, the way we are going to make it happen, it's different, no? Because organizing people depends on the concrete realities of the people. So something that works here in Brazil could not work in Australia or not work in Philippines. It depends on how it's the concrete reality, the concrete needs of the people. To give an example, we have, like, for example, collective decision making is a principle for the MST. So there is no space in the MST where someone decides something. Everything's collective. Another principle that we have in the MST, we don't have voting. So building consensus is a principle, and it's not easy, but it's a principle. We have to do it. You know? Equal participation is a principle. So everybody must participate. If you go to a camp, to a settlement, we have to organize the family. We MST talk about family all the time, no? Because we organize the children, the elders, the men, the women. Everybody must be part of this structure in the grassroots level, no? So I don't have tips, but having good principles that guide us will help us to look to a specific reality and say, here we can apply this principle this way because these are the conditions of the people that we are organizing. And on the second thing about the campaigns, what we're doing, what we can do, three things. First, I will send later after this session or tomorrow, because the time here, tomorrow, I think will be today for you, I don't know, all the links of all these networks that we're creating solidarity during the pandemic, about the MST, about the actions we're doing in our camps and settlements. I would send a lot of links or emails to everybody. This is one thing that we just share information, and then we can see how we can help. And not helping, but being part of, it's more than help, being part of the efforts. No? Second, I think that's what we're doing here. This is an action that helped us a lot, like connecting us, sharing experience, learning a lot from each other. I think this is one action that we are already doing, and this is really helpful for us. It's so a way of doing it. So I really congratulate you a lot. And the third one is like the importance to denounce what's happening in Brazil. Use our contacts, our connections to help people understand what's really happening in Brazil. I think this will be another way to help a lot, because sometimes you start talking about what's happening in Brazil, people just don't believe, because no, it's not possible that this is happening, and truly it's really happening. Only about these two questions, then we can make other comments later, not take so much time.
So probably what we can include there is that there was also a question for you, Fabio, about is Jair Bolsonaro's government using the pandemic to suppress opposition or activists, you know, like what Duterte is doing in Philippines?
No, it's a different way what the government here is doing. It's like Duterte and Bolsonaro are like very similar in a lot of stuff. You know, the way they think, the authoritarianism that they're part of. They're all part of this global right-wing offensive, very similar. But the way Bolsonaro is using the pandemic here is like denying the need of the quarantine, denying science, saying that's not that serious, because Bolsonaro is really connected to the United States right wing. So they have all this conspiracy that's the Chinese virus, and because they want to break our economy and all that. But at the same time, because the discussion on the pandemic here in Brazil became very polarizing. You know? Bolsonaro is president because we have a big polarization in Brazilian society a few years ago. That's crazy stuff, and still today. So it's something like those who defend the need of a quarantine are communists, terrorists, these very crazy people. So it became partidarization of the virus. But virus do not choose which one we're going to infect. So he have to deny everything related to the pandemic, say that's not a big issue. But at the same time, as he generates a lot of confusion in society, because this kind of authoritarian governments, they need to create a disruption, confusion, because they operate under the confusion of the society. So the more he creates confusion, more he is advancing on this authoritarian agenda. That's very clear. So we never have so much militaries as part of the staff of the government, not even during the dictatorship that we have for 20 years. So much militaries in key roles in the politics. No? Now that today the Minister of Health just asked to get out of the government, who is now in the Minister of Health is a military, the general. So, and also all these attacks that he's doing openly, and sometimes he himself, he leaks information for the press to create these rumors, attacking the Congress, attacking the judiciary system, saying that during the dictatorship things was better to solve the problem. So he's just using the pandemic to advance in the authoritarian agenda, but I think in a different way. It's not like we need to do this to solve the problem of the pandemic. It's more like we need to do this kind of stuff because we have to confront these people, globalists, and all this flat earth conspiracy stuff that are trying to attack our country, our sovereignty because of China and things like that. So I think it's using, but in a different way.
All right, so the next question, thank you, Fabio, is for Josh. Can you mention the response of Filipinos here in Australia to Duterte's pandemic measures?
Since the Australian government started the lockdown, and when Scott Morrison introduced the job keepers and job seekers bailouts, or I call it bailouts, to Australians, we, Migrante Australia, have come to a realization that the temporary workers, or especially the ones that have temporary visas or international students that cannot get out of the country because the international ports have closed or have been closed, are stuck in this situation. So without any support coming from the Australian government, Migrante Australia started what we call the collective action to gather donations and either in cash or in goods to support the international students and temporary workers that have been left out from the Australian government support. So nationwide, our organizations have started what we call Damayan Migrante, which is a collective effort. And we sought out or have introduced ourselves that we are able and willing to provide whatever emergency needs that these temporary visa holders have. So it has been successful, and Migrante Australia and all the counterparts in New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, and WA have actually mastered the forces just to provide temporary relief. So that has been the immediate response of the Filipino community here in Australia.
All right, and the last question is for all the speakers. Do you think the government of Brazil, Colombia, and the Philippines are using the virus in a broader worldwide offensive by imperialism against the working class and towards outright dictatorship?
I'll answer that first. Okay. I don't think it will be an anti-imperialist move by Duterte. Yeah, actually, he is kowtowing to nations like China and the United States and other countries, other capitalist countries. So he's more into imperialist controls, and he actually is selling the Philippines to any nations that is capable of buying the Philippines. What he is after, though, is his personal agenda of being more like Marcos, which is an authoritarian government that the people just will just accept whatever he says and whatever he wants to do. So, and the pandemic is one way for him to do that by actually not providing health program, because he wants most of the poor people to just be eliminated, and if he cannot eliminate them, by guns and bullets, he certainly is calling for the COVID-19 to eliminate his opponents and for him to acquire that much needed, much sought power that has been going on since he first came into power in 2016.
In the case of Brazil, Brazil is totally aligned to the United States imperialism. You know? So as the United States just losing part of its hegemony because China is just raising as another, with all the economic power of China. So this creates a lot of contradictions that we can just figure out how much Brazil is connected with the United States imperialism because, for example, one of the speeches of these right-wing people is that you have to save our economy. So that's why you cannot do quarantine and all that because the economy and the economy and the economy. And at the same time, Bolsonaro's government attacks a lot China. That's the first economic partner of Brazil, where we send all our commodities to China. So it's so aligned with the United States that even in economic perspective, they're doing wrong because they could not like just criticize China all the time because we depend on China more than we depend on the United States. So it's ideologically aligned to the United States imperialism. So in the case of Brazil, it's very clear that, as I said before, with different measures, but also during the pandemic, it's getting stronger. It's getting more evidence how much it's the United States imperialism that's being coming from the benefit. Because if we fight with China, and China say we will not buy for you anymore because they're just criticizing our first partner in commerce, then we have to sell our commodities to the United States when it's more commodities than China. So, for example, so that's the level of craziness of these right-wing people, that the ideological submission of the federal government of Brazil is over the economy itself, and we're talking economy about the capitalist countries, Brazil. So that's the craze of this stuff.
Thanks. I sent the question to Daniel in Colombia, and he wrote saying that in Colombia, the quarantine measures stopped all social protests completely, not just workers, but farmers, rural, indigenous, students. So yeah, that's what's happening in Colombia. And Marisol, in our group, we had one more question come up.
Yeah.
Which was, oh, here we go. Yeah, it was a conversation about how can we organize together and support each other internationally. So I don't know if that is one last question before we go to our music.
Yeah, before we go to the music, we can mention about tomorrow. Do you want to do that, Anissa?
Sure. So this is not the last webinar. We've still got one more tomorrow. If people want to come back, and Fabio, you can come back tomorrow night. You're always welcome. Or they're also recorded, so you can get a good sleep and watch it when you wake up. And we're really excited. We've got 3 more speakers tomorrow. I'll just read them out so I say them properly. We've got Rachel Herzing from the Center for Political Education calling in from the US, so probably be another weird time for her. So good on her. We've got Bo Spearham, who's from the Warriors of Aboriginal Resistance and lives up in Meanjin, which is so-called Brisbane, and Ronnie Karenni from Rise of the Morning Star, West Papua, and who will also be playing us some music with the Black Orchid String Band. So come and join us tomorrow. It is on at the same time. It's 11 again.
Yeah, I would like to mention that for Maria, you know, some of the comments people put in the chat, what an awesome idea, Maria, and cool transformational community project and discussion. So people want to know your webpage. So we agreed that we will send Migrante Filipino webpage and also MST and Maria to everyone. And yeah, I will say that very positive feedbacks from everyone for all the speakers. So thank you so much, Fabio Tomaz, because we know that you know, the difference of time, you know, thank you for your patience and
No problem at all.
no, thank you so much. And also for Josh Kotsakis, very informative. Thank you, Josh. And also Maria Pena, also very important contribution, refreshing, you know, ideas about how we can organize and what kind of actions we can also include during the pandemic. And just to mention one thing that for during the group we had, it was, I think we all agree that, you know, governments are pretending to care, but they are scaring people and controlling people. And I always repeat what Lucho said. I'm not sure if this is for Lucho, probably not, who knows, when he always said, keep yourself safe, but not silent. And I think that's the idea of this, a space or conference or webinar, whatever we want to call it, is that, you know, we need to keep denouncing and talking about what's happening in our communities and what social movements are doing at the moment. So, as we mentioned earlier, we have Alejandro Vargas, who is a Chilean community musician, the best of the best that I met here in Australia, you know, in Melbourne. So Alejandro, you are silent, so probably Anissa will put the microphone on so we can hear. Yeah. There, ahora sí. Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you so much, Alejandro.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Lucho. Thank you, Marisol. We work together with Solidarity with Chile, and we've been doing things for Chile for the last 45 years. And it's always refreshing to do something for the community and to hear you guys talk about the governments and their the way they push us away, and they want to just put money in their pockets and not caring about us. The musicians are suffering quite a lot at the moment, the arts, and in a way I'm trying to help my fellow musicians because I have a full-time job in construction which hasn't been stopped. I can help my fellow musicians by being there for them, giving them online lessons and buying their CDs and you know, talking about them to other friends so they can buy their CDs. So if you interested, I have some of my friends' CDs available. I'm sorry to plug that in, but it's a way to help. It's the only way we can help. They're not getting anything from the government, and it's a way to help. I will give you this song by Isabel Parra called Cueca Sola. Cueca Sola was written by Isabel. It's an instrumental. Cueca is a Chilean national dance, and it's danced like the men trying to win the woman's love. During the dictatorship, a lot of women were left alone. Their partners, their sons, mainly their sons, were killed and disappeared. So this is a Cueca Sola, which means the Cueca alone. Thank you.
Woo.
So much. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to use the reaction. It's always good.
Fantastico.
Fantastic. So good. Thank you. No, thanks to all of you. So I'm not sure. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for using the reactions. It's good. It's good. It's good. So do people want to, Alejandro, do you want to play one more?
Do you want one more?
Yeah, that will be nice.
Okay. I'll bring my little friend.
Yeah, your little friend. That's good.
You know what this is? A charango. I'm sorry, but I really find myself very boring. So, you know, I don't really do things on my own. So I hope you like it. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Wow.
So good. Bravo.
Wow.
Fantástico. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Estuvo súper buena. So
Muchas
good.
gracias.
So good.
Muchas
So
gracias.
good.
Todo. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. Thank you,
No, it's
everyone. Thank you. I'm not sure, Anissa, you have anything to say before we close? And just to invite everyone to come tomorrow. And thanks everyone who participate and the speakers for the patient, for your contributions. And yeah, we need to keep ourselves safe, but not silent. And Anissa?
Yeah. The only thing is we put the link to tomorrow in the chat. but also we'll be emailing it around and messaging on Facebook and trying our best to make sure everyone can get in as we get better at this. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and we'll email out links of stuff in the next few days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, comrades.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alejandro.
See you tomorrow morning.
Ciao. Have a good sleep, Fabio.
Oh, thank you. Have a good lunch, you.
Thank you.
Okay, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Wow.
Bye.
Yeah. Oh, stop recording.